Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Yeah, I'm so happy. We started our live with Dr. Andrew Muir Wood, founder and design strategist, Muir Wood Products Research. Did I say okay, Muir? Yeah?
Muir Wood.
Muir Wood. Okay,
Muir Wood.
Next time maybe I'll do it better. I want to tell you that I'm very, very happy that you joined. And we're here in the Invincible Innovation Show. And it's the first time I'm bringing someone that I really happy to talk to other than just a professional thing. Because I know Andrew from the Google Experts program. And I met him, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. And other than being very sharp and smart, he is the funniest man you could meet. And it's so it's a pleasure just talking to you. So thank you for joining me.
So are you saying that all of the other people you interviewed weren't a pleasure to speak to?
They were, but they were more professional thing. Don't catch me here, Okay, nobody
so you're saying that I'm not professional?
You are both. You are professional and funny. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So let's start. So could you tell me just how did you come to be design strategist? How do you focus on product research and user research? How did you decide to be on that path?
Well, actually, I was thinking about this. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be a detective. And I had this like very specific image of, it's like a kind of film noir detective, kind of wearing a trench coat. I borrowed my dad's trench coat, and like wearing a Humphrey Bogart kind of hat. And like I just love the idea of sort of following people around and like solving puzzles and things. And then I just put those silly childish dreams away, and I went and studied engineering, and then slowly but surely found my way back to a world where I'm kind of solving puzzles and following people around.
Right.
And so, it's kind of like a happy accident. I did engineering, I studied design, I did a PhD, and then the PhD involved a lot of qualitative research.
Yeah.
And I just realized that actually the piece of the area of kind of design and engineering that I liked the most was about answering questions.
Right.
And designing ways to answer questions through research.
So we're talking, in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. So we have so many open questions. Nobody has an answer or a plan. So could you tell me, what do you think could we use research for in order to make our lives better and companies could be more successful with this research?
I think that the challenge here is that there's going to be so many kind of unpredictable kind of outcomes and side effects of this firstly the pandemic, but then also the kind of knock-on effects of the a recession that follows, and just a changing mindset around risk and around health, things like that. So there's going to be all kinds of changes of behavior that are going to be relatively hard to predict without actually speaking to customers. And so
it's like a new situation, so without asking you will never know, right?
Everything's changed, and you can wait to see what they do, and then you can be like, oh, our sales have gone down, and then respond, or you can get ahead of the curve and speak to them and try to understand how they have changed. Things have changed overnight.
Right.
The idea of everyone, 3 months ago, everyone was like, use less plastic. And now there's masks, there's plastic covering for food. All of the environmental things have gone out the window, hopefully temporarily.
No, I see it vice versa. The fact that we are not polluting with airplanes and cars, and people are less in the nature. So the animals are celebrating right now. So
right,
there are benefits here too, right?
Absolutely. But all of these unexpected kind of changes, that some of which will be temporary, some of which will be hopefully the kind of nature side of things will be more permanent. But you just don't, especially when it's like a second order effect, you just don't know what it's going to be. And so speaking to people, having conversations, and just listening, and not necessarily knowing what the answer is going to be is going to really help you to get ahead of that.
Yeah, let's say I'm a company and I come to you and I tell you that our sales are down. We think people are less content with our products. And what would you do to help us other than just talking to people? How do you gather the information? What are you asking? Like, tell us about your work more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing would be to look exactly at the indicators that you mentioned. So if there is a specific change that you're interested in, that perhaps sales have gone down, or maybe the active users on your product have gone down, then I would probably start by having a think as a team, and speaking to the people in your company who already have exposure to customers, to try and get some ideas of what hypotheses there might be about the reasons behind these things. And then as quickly as possible, I would then just try and get on the phone or get in front of customers that have displayed this behavior, and also customers who've not. So trying to understand, the ones who have continued buying, as well as the ones who've stopped buying, and really unpicking the motivations and drivers. And you just never know what those drivers might be.
Sure.
Sometimes it might be.
And like only while talking to them, you could really understand the essence of what they're trying to do, or what the change is about, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You talked about in your research that you had lots of qualitative measurements, and many people are very obsessed with data and quantitative data. How do you see the difference, and why do you think that people are not like aware of the power of not only data, which is raw one?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the age-old debate. I think that they complement each other really well. The data obviously allows you to have a much kind of larger scale understanding of behavior, but it's often lagging. So it's often you only happens afterwards. You see your sales have gone down, for example. It also doesn't. It's often quite opaque, so you can see the sales have gone down, but you don't know why. And so the qualitative data helps you to understand why, helps you to come up with some of the context behind those changes, and there could be multiple reasons, and it gives you some clues as to how to make changes, how to solve it. Otherwise, you're kind of shooting in the dark. You could be like, okay, well, I have an idea, maybe we can change this to we can make it cheaper, and that will. But how do you know if you haven't talked to people and worked out that price was the driver?
Maybe we'll do more marketing, change our ads, or something like that, or the support is not good enough, or something like that. But it's even more important when you have a new idea or a new product, and then you don't have any data, and you just imagine yourself doing something. And this is even like, I think, will be more frequently used because people are changing and the market is changing. So we need to create something different, a different solution, a different product, right? So, and how is the process different in that case? That the company needs to go to a new market, to a new type of clients, and so forth.
Yeah, so that discovery is what you're looking for there. So in those situations, you're trying to understand existing behavior and existing problems, and so that you can try and predict how your kind of technology might fit into that world. And so if you speak to people and they say, we have this problem, and we are currently solving it in this way, but it's not a very good way. It's very expensive. It's very slow. It's very stressful. Then that's a really good clue, and a very cheap clue to gather that you're on the right track. And so then
Right.
if you then go back to those same people with the prototype of your solution, there should be a lowered risk of that solution being rejected by those people, because they've already revealed that they have this problem. They've already revealed that they're looking for a solution, but they haven't found anything. And then, then they can give you that group of people could then give you more relevant feedback on whatever ideas you have.
Yeah, and we have someone live, like people live in here, and we want to say hi to Juan Kim. So thank you for being with us, and you're welcome to ask questions. So I'll try to do like multitasking, view what people are asking, and then maybe ask you some of the stuff that they are asking. So could you give us like an example for a use case that you have an insight that you found during these research from one of your clients or projects?
So actually something that's quite a good case study recently is this project I worked on at the beginning of the pandemic, which is the Meals for the NHS.
Yeah, it's a great initiative. I was very, very proud of you, and I really watch you on your LinkedIn, just seeing what's going on. So I'd be happy if you tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. It's a nice case study of a lot of good practices in innovation. And just as a quick background, what we did was we realized in the UK that doctors and nurses were not eating properly in the evenings because there's no food at the hospitals. Their canteens have shut. They usually shut at 5 p.m.
Wow.
And also at the beginning of the crisis, a lot of the shops were empty or there were really big queues. So it was very hard for people to cater for themselves. And as a result, they were eating from vending machines and not eating properly at all. And so we decided that we would try and send meals into hospitals from local food providers, and that we would try and get the public to fund it.
Wow.
So we did it, and we started with the problem. So we started by interviewing doctors and nurses and understanding this issue of there being no food available, understanding that also a lot more people doing night shift because of the crisis.
Yeah.
And so we really deeply understood the problem, and then we started experimenting with a solution. So we said, well, what if we send meals into you as if you just ordered meals yourself? You've ordered 50 lasagnas to your team, but the difference is it just happens to be free. And they, fairly obviously, were like, yes, please.
Yeah, of course.
So we started sending food in. We actually paid for the first few food deliveries ourselves, just to understand the delivery process, to understand the logistics, the safety, et cetera, and then we were able to use that to then answer the next question, which was, will the public pay for this? Will they donate money to fund it? Which was the second most risky question.
Will they pay for it?
Yeah, will they pay for it? And if they didn't, then that would be fine. We've sent 150 meals into hospital, and we gave some doctors and nurses a break. But the public won't pay for it.
Yeah.
But it turns out that they would pay for it a lot, and they ended up donating 1.8 million pounds to the. But it was very much it was kind of a perfect situation in that the British public really wanted to help, but felt helpless. And providing food, and there's an old saying, food is the best medicine. So providing food to the staff so that they could save lives was just such an approachable way and a kind of tangible way for the public, that it really resonated, and that's why we got a lot of backing.
When you're saying about like providing food, it's like it's not only food. It's like we see you, we know you're like trying so hard, you're working so hard, and we want to just chip in whatever we can. And for the doctors, it's like we're caring about you as much as you care about us as a population, as humans. So it's like, and when you're closed at home, I guess you cannot do much. You cannot just go to the ER and start resuscitating people. No. So what you can do is just feel better while doing something good. So now
Yeah.
you're not only like fun, now you're even a good-hearted person.
Yeah, just temporarily, just for 2 months.
Yeah. Now when it's gone, like no way.
Yeah.
And is it still working? So it's like it was only when the lockdown is on, or?
Yeah, so it just finished. I think we sent our last meals 2 weeks ago. So it really was, a response to the crisis, and there was a lot of factors. So the more staff being on night shift, the food not being available in supermarkets, and then obviously the food not being available in hospitals. That sort of triple combo made it hard. But now there's a reduced number of people on night shifts, and the supermarkets are kind of back to normal. And so it's just not such a big problem anymore. And so we were constantly measuring that. We were constantly asking staff, about their needs, and thinking about how much money we had left, or whether we wanted to do more fundraising. And we reached this point where we felt actually, that there is still a need. There's a catering problem in the NHS, which is something separate. But the crisis, and what our donors had donated for was kind of had reached a logical endpoint, and so we were able to say, that's it, and we'll kind of close things off. And we had to, we had a duty towards the people making the food, because the other side benefit was the fact that we were supporting
help the restaurants.
Yeah. So we had to let them down and make sure that they knew that this was going to end as well, because they were about almost half of the restaurants that we worked with they attributed us to increasing their chances of survival of their businesses.
Wow.
And so that we were learning a lot from them, and we were learning a lot about food delivery, food logistics, food safety throughout the process. So it was just a big old learnathon.
Yeah. Like I took part in lots of hackathons during like these months, and people trying to do anything they could do in order to make something like the situation better. And you see that people are joining forces and creating something better just because they want, and they want to utilize their talents to do something good. So like, I hope we'll have more of that. We don't need like a full-fledged pandemic for that, right? So
yeah.
And tell me, how did your professional capabilities help you do your work better in this crisis, like with this NHS projects and with others, like your clients asking you to help them reinvent maybe some of the stuff they're doing?
Yeah, well, certainly I'm currently working with a university that is thinking about what September is going to be like. And particularly more actually around the non-academic side, which is really scary, because this university is such a an important experience for young people, and if you make it all online or partially online, then it's going to be different. It's not going to be exactly what they kind of dreamt of, and so so getting that right, or at least getting it as good as it can be, is going to be important. So that certainly is, that's a project where we're speaking to as many students as possible, and we're trying to understand what is important, about being an undergrad or a postgrad, and then thinking about how elements of that might be translated into digital experiences, and also just thinking about what the kinds of situations that, because we don't even know what the rules are going to be in September.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
So all we do know is that the digital side of things is going to have to be good. Be ready.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like when we talk about, we know that the needs are still there. So people are going to university to educate themselves, but not only that, they want to meet people. They want to meet people that could be like their friends and be a companion while they're studying really hard, and maybe they could help them with their career afterwards. And it's like an ecosystem, the university. It's not only just going and listening to lectures. And
Yeah.
the same could be with we're talking about education, but what about entertainment, and what about sports events and so forth? So as I see it, when we're thinking about this change, and people are just thinking about people losing money because we are not going to any concerts, for example, but there are like trillions of dollars of needs out there, and you just need to meet them, right? Because people still want to listen to music together, yeah,
Yeah.
or to go to a comedy show, right? So they want to laugh together. How can they laugh together?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's the same needs, and we need to understand how can we create something new, and it's different than what we have. Like, for example, I think that we are like in the middle with education, because we didn't really understand what should we do online, what should we keep like face to face, how can we do that, and what could be better this way or that way, and like it's a really big question, right?
Yeah.
And what did they say, the students?
Well, I mean, so it's interesting. Some of the students we spoke to have been, they have already experienced the teaching at the end of their first year. So all of the teaching went online at the end of last academic year, and so there's that side of things, mixed experiences there. And I think that, but I think what we were trying to learn is, about all of these other aspects of university, and the socializing being and the connections that you make being such an important part of that experience.
Sure.
And actually if that's not there, if you're not getting those connections, then you may as well just be doing an online course. And it's probably cheaper, and it's probably better designed than the university can do it.
Yeah.
Because if like a pure online course has been thinking about how to do teaching online, from the start, rather than just trying to switch over to online halfway through, and it's probably cheaper, and you just aren't going to make friends through it.
Yeah. And there are like the dorms, people sleeping together like in the same room and having friends and going out and having their social life, other than just going to school and come back, right? So yeah. So I guess that we're all talking about people closed inside and being lonely, and most people think about maybe old people being lonely, but as I see it, many of them are really maybe more used to being lonely than people who are young, that have more energy, and they're really used to being social and not being alone. So I think that what you're talking about is like, this is a huge, like, I would say, market. You could think about what could they do better when they need to be less like in contact, in face-to-face thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you can get people to make friendships, and somehow, it's going to be very hard, but if you can create friendships, then you reduce the burden on the healthcare and the mental health and treating of anxiety, because it's having a support network is an important part of prevention of mental health challenges. And so it's important to invest in it.
Sure. I think that in general, you see people are very into the physical health because, there is a pandemic, but the implications of that for your mental health, I think are more detrimental in a sense, because you're very anxious and for a long time, and what could be done when the unknown is here? Like, that's it. Nobody knows. And when you're alone and afraid and anxious, it's like a mixture, which is like really hard for people, right? So it's like there's so many opportunities to do things better, right? As I see it. So could you give us a few like professional tips if a company wants to know more about their future products or How can they make their work in their product better?
I think that I think the biggest tip is just to try to shorten your learning cycles. So to try to learn as quickly as possible. This means, speaking to customers earlier, testing out ideas more quickly, even if but also being kind of happy that they're not always the perfect ideas, and that you're gathering these kind of rapid feedback loops, because the faster that you can learn, the more you're able to respond to the changes. And this, that people are probably changing. They say that people are changing more in the last 3 months than they have in the last 10 years.
You could say that.
We'll see how many of those changes stay, but there's going to be, there'll be a knock when a lot of people lose their jobs in a few months' time. That's going to be a huge change that a lot of people aren't ready for, and that will create new challenges, but also new opportunities. In recessions, more entrepreneurship often increases because people lose their jobs and start businesses, and so creating tools that help people to start businesses and help them to be successful. That's an area that will probably increase. WeWork,
the necessities.
Money. WeWork is making money now because of companies now wanting to find a sort of localized way of housing their staff, and so even WeWork is making money now.
Even
WeWork.
And this is not like, I'm not that worried about WeWork. I'm worried about other stuff, but they are not good. And Maya tells it's really interesting what you're saying, although it's in Hebrew. I'll tell you that this is what she wrote, so thank you. And like when we were talking about this change, we were talking about changing behavior in people. And I think that if something is really intriguing and spontaneous and hard to predict, is human behavior, because there are so many aspects of it, and we cannot really imagine what it will be. We can imagine the numbers of, the pandemic maybe, or the numbers of the financial impact. But to really understand behavior, we cannot do it without talking to people. Right? So your work is so important right now, right? So do you feel that this work highlighted your role within a product differently right now?
I've always thought my role is important.
For you, it's obvious. It is.
Yeah. But I think that I've not seen a decrease in demand for my services, and actually, there was a period, there's 2 months when it was just everything sort of dropped. But now it's just there's a lot of demand, because a lot of people are like, okay, we need to learn from our customers. We got to get, and we want to do it quickly. We want to do it rigorously, and so actually it'd be quite useful to get someone experienced in to guide us through that. And so. So I think I do, and I in general, I think that in the tech industry, the maturity around the need to speak to customers is increasing, and so that's good for me, good for my business.
Of course, and it's good for. I think it's good. It's not only good for. It's good that it's good for you, but I think it's
sure,
of course, sure. All this crisis. Who is it for? Now you understand. It's for your business. But other than that, I think it's good for the companies to understand that, because if not, it's all gut feeling. If you don't really talk to your users, it's all like, we think it should work this way. And the fact that organizations are working more like agile, fast, lean startup, things that are done fast, it's good for them and for their business. And this is why they're doing that, It's like the way of doing things faster, like experimenting, learning, and then doing something on the way. It's like, it's needed.
I think when you uncover the thing that for customers is like the sort of the problem, and you've got a lot of evidence around that problem. Let's say it's kind of easier to explain in a business setting, but let's say you have a client or customer who has a task and it takes them 2 hours, and it's maybe some kind of data analysis or some kind of accounting or something, and you take that task and you say to the company, we know that this task takes us this long. We've spoken to 20 of these people, and it on average it takes 2 hours. And our challenge as a company is to get that down to 1 minute or like 0 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Then it's such an amazing to be able to like have a customer centric goal like that, and to be confident that if you get that right, then the money will come. You don't need a revenue goal if you solve that thing. Obviously. Yeah. You also need evidence that customer has like budget available to solve.
And he's not alone, so there are more customers like him.
Right. Yeah. You need that evidence too. You do. But once you got that picture, and everyone's working towards that, then you relentlessly try to bring down the time it takes to do that task, and that involves everyone. Then it's it's a good feeling when you get it right.
Yeah, of course. And it goes back to you being like Sherlock Holmes, finding what is like, where is the gun and who did it? And then you can just charge. That's it.
Exactly.
So are you going back to why you did it as a child wanting to be, I think that Sherlock Holmes is very British, right? It's a British kids thing, a dream, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're doing your dream job in a sense.
It turns out that I am. So I feel pretty lucky.
Great.
It doesn't feel like work.
Oh, that's the good thing. So if it's not work, so it means that you're enjoying. So in general, when I work with people, I always like to work with people that they are talented, but they love what they're doing. If you have both of these, it's going to be successful. If you're lacking one of these, less successful. So that's great.
I definitely love what I'm doing. So I've got at least one.
So this brings me to, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what would they do?
They can contact me on my website. Which is muirwood.co.uk.
You say your name better than me. Surprisingly.
I've had some practice.
Yeah.
I can, and I do various types of projects which range from kind of coaching and kind of capability building all the way through to full service research projects. So it just depends on how hands-on clients need. But I also do the mentoring with you. With Google, but also with other initiatives as well. So it's always good to work with startups and young entrepreneurs through these channels as well.
And I hope we'll meet, face-to-face real, not like an online mentorship, which is like, it's good for the startups, but it's less fun.
Yeah.
And we don't have any coffee breaks to laugh with together. So it's like, there is a need. Now you see there is a need. You can go back to Google and tell them, I've talked to all your mentors, and
I talked to one mentor, and I believe that this is
the use case you should invest in. Like it's a very important mentor after all. That's me.
Yeah.
So they'll surely do that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Great. So first, I'll add the links to this video here. So I hope that everybody will be, I'm sure that everyone will be interested in that. And I want to thank you for your time. It's been like lots of fun for me and very interesting. And I hope we'll have more chances first to talk and to do good, because like doing something good without any benefits is like the best thing you could do ever. Just using your talents and expertise to make something better with this very hard situation is like, you cannot do something better than that.
Yeah, feels pretty good.
So thank you, Andrew. Now I'll try Muir Wood. No?
You did a wonderful job. You did a really good job.
No, thank you, Andrew.
Thanks,
and thanks everybody who joined us. And next time in Invincible Innovation, we'll have another very interesting and nice person, and funny, I hope. So thank you, Andrew. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yay! I'm Adima Zaukario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.